Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another bonus episode of the 5 to 9 Job podcast, or as we like to call them, the 5 to 9 Diary episode. So, today's episode is going to be the same as always. With these bonus episodes, what we try to do is we give you an update on the podcast, and then we also go ahead to sort of do a therapy session, let's say. But anyway, what I go ahead and do is I go and share a few notes, a few anecdotes and things I have learned through the week that I think are valuable sharing, or I just want to throw at you and see how the conversation goes. Anyway, so first things first, an update on the podcast. The podcast has been going well. I hadn't got enough time to record a few weeks back. Actually last week, since everyone was home. And when you are trying to record a podcast, there are so many environments or so many factors you have to consider, especially being that I want my voice to be the only one that you guys are hearing. So all these distractions of the kids playing outside, someone watching TV, those are all distractions that I don't want in the podcast. And you realize that when people are around, you really can't do much of recording. So last week, everyone was home and it was just hard. So I think I need to have at least 5 or more episodes pre-recorded. And why I'm saying that is because with the kind of schedule that I have, it would be ideal to have, let me say, 5 pre-recorded. But considering that I drop an episode on Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday, you find that by the time you, let me say, record the episodes on Sunday, by the time the week is done, you already have to record at least an extra episode for the next week. I burn through the episodes so fast, it's just crazy. But that's the schedule I chose, and I want to stick with it, and I think I'm getting better for it. So I am trying to, I should say, adjust to recording about 5, 6 or more episodes pre-recorded. So 3 to be for that week, and then 2 or 3 just to have them in reserve as episodes I can dish out if I wasn't able to record, I'm not at home, I have traveled, or I just don't have the right environment. I just want to have those episodes on guard, so that whenever I need to pull out one and post it, I am not going to fail to put out an episode. So that is with recording. Otherwise, with life, one interesting one is that I've been listening to a lot of these DJ mixes. So one is Caspia B, another one is DJ Vera, another one, I don't know his name. Okay, I know his name, but it's difficult to pronounce. It's some Nigerian name. But I realized that when I am, let me say, working or focusing on a project, now let me say when I'm writing code or when I'm writing a document that it's long, if I am playing a mix in the background, it just helps me to focus. And I found that by the time I am let me say finishing the work, or by the time the mix, let's say it's 1 hour 30 minutes, by the time it elapses, I've actually enjoyed what I'm doing, and I feel like I should just put on another mix and continue instead of feeling lazy and everything. So I found that to be a hack, sort of. Now, if I am writing an episode script, wow, that really helps, because the creativity also just gets this small boost that is weird, but it works anyway. So I will continue to maybe do that. And then I am obviously still in the grind and the hustle, but one thing that I think is changing, or I have noticed that, is my demeanor is getting back to what I am going to call my prime. But it's just that there have been seasons in my life when I have had to, I should say, put my head down and work. Periods like my last year of campus, periods after I graduated, those were really hard periods that I felt myself cut off everything and just focus on that. So I started to do things, act a certain way that I just like, because I was getting things done. And of recent, or for the past few months, if anyone has been following the roller coaster of emotions I have been on this whole high and low, which is not what I want. I want this consistency, and I know life is literally not that. It's an up and down road. But yeah, I feel like that prime me is coming back. That prime me is bad for a lot of people, like the people around me. I am literally always in my head. I am trying to do the next thing. I know it affects the people around me, but it produces results. So I feel like I'm still dropping the ball in some areas, but I also feel like I'm just a few disciplines away from really becoming a killer, or actually achieving some of the goals that I have set. So I'm just trying to do that. I am reading a bit more. I have gotten back to that one thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to read at least 2 books a month. So last month, I think I read like 2. This month, I've already completed 1. I am on course to complete the second, and I want to do a third. So I want to be an overachiever, yes, but I mean, what is life if you can't push yourself? So another update is that I was feeling a bit sick more lately. Like, it's just this whole thing whereby you'll be working and then you get a headache, you feel nausea, the stomach aches, like for no reason. So that would happen around midday, in the evening, in the afternoon, and it would just derail me because when I get into work, like the first hour is usually you're reacting to issues as a property manager. You're reacting to things from the last evening, so things that happened at night that you need to solve, or you're finishing work that is from the last day. And then when you actually sit down to focus and like do work, that is when your stomach starts irritating and things like that. So I have found that to be difficult, but I don't know if I'm just keeping myself from doing the actual work or it's something I need to look into. I hope I'm not driving my health into the ground. I do understand that my workout routine has been a little bit inconsistent, and to be actually like truthful to myself, I'm not working out enough. I am doing 3 days a week. I definitely know that is not enough. I need to increase it. But again, I am dropping the ball on the 2 days. I mean, the 3 days a week now. Like last week, I think I did exercise just once. This week, I have done none. Today is Tuesday. So I still have time, yes. But I mean, it's not a good start. But I don't know. I hope it will get better. Okay, and then on to the next segment, which is the creator of the week. So this week's creator of the week is the Ugandan podcast by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. So you heard that right. There is a podcast out there called the Ugandan Podcast, hosted by an actual ministry of the government of Uganda called the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. So this podcast features Ugandans, government officials, and other stakeholders that are steering in government programs, policies, projects, and all these collective development, I should say, initiatives that are in Uganda, or any topic that they want to pass on to the public, things like that. They have, or for the episodes I've listened to, there was one I listened to at the end of the year, which was an economic outlook on 2025. There was a good episode on mental health and the workplace. There was one on media. There was a very good one on NSSF. It's not so political. They like discuss actual issues, though I don't know if that is going to change as we approach elections and everything. But if you are out there, you want to learn more about Uganda, that is a very good resource. It's like hosted by people that are actually in government, actually know what is going on, people that are actually in the industry. So there is no fear that you're going to listen to some kid on YouTube just, I should say, reading through his diary like I'm doing. You're actually going to be listening to guys that have power, guys who are involved in the decisions, guys that are out there making things happen that could affect your investments or, I don't know, your next visit, things like that. It's just a good resource to listen to. Even as a Ugandan, you need to know things that are going on in your country. And considering that I don't listen to news, I don't watch news, this is a good way for me to load up on the important things without having all the negativity that comes with the 7 o'clock news anyway. So anyway, let's go on to my thoughts and the diary. So for this week, I have around 4 things written down. So let's just go through them quickly. So number 1 is that the hard thing about wanting success is expecting others to always cheer you on. So I'm going to give you context for this one, and I hope you guys will be able to be on the same page with me at the end. So not everyone is going to root for you, and sometimes people you really want in your corner, let me say your parents, a partner, a close friend, someone you have always been there for, I don't want to say won't care, but they won't show up for you. It's harsh, but it's all an expectations game. You see, we are all human. We like to be celebrated. We like to be seen, want to be loved and all that. But the hard truth I have come to learn is that wanting success and going after it, being exceptional, moving outside of the box is hard. And do not just blindly expect that people are going to support you. Some people will pretend to support you, others will use you, some will envy you, and some will actively try to keep you down. Not because you did anything wrong, but just because they don't want to see you win. I mean, a good example I can give here is if you are, let me say, a doctor, and you want to make health accessible in your village, you open a clinic, you are supporting them, you are doing all this just because you want to see the people in your area get better access to medical care, your parents, your family, things like that. The intention is a good one, but not everyone in the community is going to support you. Some are going to pretend to support you, but they actually don't want you to win that much. I mean, like, your success almost shows what they could have achieved, and it shows their inadequacy to achieve that, and there are so many, I should say, motivations behind that, why humans act that way, why others will try to use you, use your name, things like that, why others will envy you, and why others will actually try to demarket your pharmacy, say you have expired drugs, things like that, report you to NDA. I mean, we have all had those stories whereby this guy is trying to do good by his community, and some people in the community are fighting him, not because he has done anything wrong in particular, but just because people are like that. It's a very lousy explanation, but I don't want to go through the detailed thing because obviously there are motivations behind that. But what I'm trying to say is that expecting people to support you, to be with you, to be in your corner blindly is not a route you should be banking on if you are trying to chase these really hard things, if you're trying to chase this astronomical success. And that's a fact. It's hard to hear, but it's a fact. I actually feel bad sharing it because it's true. Just, for example, think back to something you are good at, something you excel in, or something you have going well for you. Even if it was just something like having a better phone than someone else, that is reason enough for that person to start acting differently. And you may not notice it, or you may see it in subtle ways, but it's just a fair warning from experience that success is a game, and if you are at the top, people will come for you. And rightly so. I mean, people should be gunning for the top. If you are number one in class, everyone is gunning for your spot. If you have the number one podcast in Uganda, people will try to take your spot. And I mean, I am trying to take that spot, though, of course, ethically. But some people will use the dirtiest tricks to do it. So I guess what I am trying to say is be careful, know this, and still go and get it anyway. Do not let these guys cap what your motivation should be. Just don't blindly expect everyone to be in your corner. Don't blindly expect everyone to, I should say, support you. That is, one, it is cynical, but I mean, I am looking at point 2 and it doesn't make it it's not getting any better. I mean, this podcast started on a positive, but it's going downhill pretty fast. But anyway, let's go on. So number 2 is love them or hate them. They run the game. So I'm going to give you another contextual example for this one. So like it or not, some people always win, whether they deserve it or not. So number 1 is the underperformer who just somehow never gets fired. We all have those ones at work. Like these guys who literally do less work or little work or don't do any work at all, but they don't get fired. The boss who takes credit for your work. The colleague who hates you for no reason. The players that are trying to keep you from rising. Love them or hate them, they are in the game. They are part of life. This is a sincerely cynical look at life, but I think we can find wisdom in thinking this way, because there are things you can't change, you can't affect, and you shouldn't actually be fighting, when you could be doing something else with your energy, with your time, with your mental space. There are some things you can't fight. So the better alternative would be to understand the game and know that in some environments, the only way to survive is to play by their rules, or keep your head down, or navigate it wisely and get yourself out of there. Focus on the things that matter. You might not need to fix the entire system. In fact, I would argue and say that you can't fix the entire system. It would be a futile battle. You would be better suited to spend this time, let me say, fighting corruption in your organization, which is a noble and good endeavor. If you think your calling is in fighting corruption, please go ahead. We really do have a corruption problem. But there are going to be things whereby you weigh. And let me say let me go back to the doctor example. Let's say you are working in a big hospital. You'd do more by subsidizing, I should say, healthcare, trying to get healthcare to as many people as possible than you would in fighting corruption, which I think is actually a naive sort of looking at it now that I think of it. But I mean, I am failing to clearly articulate this thing that there are some battles that you shouldn't be fighting. I don't know if I could get a better example, but the doctor thing sounded, in my head at first, looked to be a good example. Like, it would be better that you save people that are dying other than actually fighting the system. Like, just go out there and do the actual job. And if people in the system see that this works, they come and help you. If they don't see it and they're after this self-interest and everything, so be it. You are going to wreck your head or your feet over the coal and just torture yourself for nothing, trying to fight this while you're not getting anywhere, while people are still dying. So at the end of the day, you literally have zero contribution for something you feel so strongly about that you weren't able to do just because you are distracted by this other thing. So I don't know. Do I like this advice? No, but do I know it's true? Absolutely. If you find yourself in an environment or this sort of environment, just stay sharp. And when you can, position yourself to escape it, or just at the end of the day, beat the game. You need to play the game, yes, but at the end of the day, you are a single player. You need to be winning for your own front, because you see, at the end of it all, it comes down to this whole thing of the impact I left and how good you feel about yourself, regardless of the environment. So I don't know. It might be a cynical view at life, but I know it is true. I don't like the advice, but it's true. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Number 3 is, it's not your fault, but it's definitely your responsibility. So, more context on this one. Maybe the situation wasn't your fault. Maybe you were dealt a bad hand. But the hardcore truth is, no one is coming to save you. And it is your responsibility to pick yourself up, to give yourself better opportunities, to put yourself in a better position. The best example I have on this one is... Actually, I'm going to borrow it from Mark Manson, though I also don't know if he got it from somewhere. But he said it on a Diary of the CEO episode he was hosted on, I think in like 2023 or 2022, somewhere there. But the idea was that, yes, it wasn't your fault that you got into an accident, let me say. But it is your responsibility that you get better, that you take care of yourself and you still look after your family, that you focus on healing. Another example that he gave is that, let's say, for example, a baby showed up at your doorstep. Like it's very crazy that people just leave their kids. Oh, okay, I'm not going to judge them, but a baby shows up at your doorstep or at your gate, whatsoever. It's not your fault that that baby is there. It is no action on your side that has put that baby there. But it is your responsibility once that baby gets there, not necessarily to look after them or to go out of your way and everything. But you need to take at least some initiative to, one, try to find the parents or report it or something like that. You can't just say, okay, there is a baby in front of our gate. It's not my responsibility. It's not my child. I'm just going to leave it there. It doesn't happen that way. Okay, maybe I am being too emotional on this, but if a child or a baby mysteriously appeared at your doorstep, it wouldn't be your fault, but it is definitely your responsibility. You can't shut the door on it. I mean, I know some people can, but that's inhuman. So we can sort of apply the same philosophy to these other facets of our lives. Like I said, you were in an accident. Yes, it wasn't your fault, but it is still your responsibility to get better. It is still your responsibility to look after your family. It is still your responsibility after you've lost your job. It's not your fault, yes, but it is still your responsibility to look after your family. It's not your fault that this bad thing is happening to you right now, but it is still your responsibility that you see yourself out of it, that you put yourself in a better position. You are dealt a bad hand, let me say, at birth. Yes, you aren't born as a son to Bill Gates or something like that, or else you would be in a better position, giving away and all this philanthropy. And, we have all these visions of the things we could do if we had a better hand. But I mean, are you sure that if you were there, you would actually be doing that? So it's about this whole thing of reframing that, considering what I have right now, considering where I am, considering the situations, who I am, I just need to take responsibility of all that and make the best steps towards becoming better, towards handling it in the best way. Because once you understand and realize that and internalize it and start to act on it, everything changes. While it may not be your fault, it is definitely up to you to get the solution. And the sooner you own that, the sooner you can move forward in a lot of things. Trust me, your life just literally becomes better and you start to see progress in far more ways than you expected, I should say. Okay, and then on to 4, which is going to be my last point for this episode, simply because I don't want to make it so long. But the next one is handling the responsibility of being with someone. And this one is very personal, you guys. So I'm going to try to articulate it the best way I can. So I was journaling the other day about relationships, and I noticed a trend. I struggle with the responsibility of caring for someone emotionally. And this isn't easy for me to share, but things like checking on someone every day or multiple times a day, constantly being available, it's not natural for me. And this might be actually like an excuse. This might be an excuse, yeah. But I almost just want them to know that I care. Like, let me try to explain it this way. I am in a relationship with someone. I am not the type to call you in morning, call you afternoon, call you evening. Although I know there are relationships that work that way. So am I selfish for wanting a relationship whereby we are secure in communicating, at least not so often, but in a way that when we talk, we actually get value from it, or when we are together, we are actually together? Or am I just overthinking everything? Or do I actually not know what I am talking about just because I have taken this whole period without being in a relationship? I have built up this picture from the outside while I am observing other people's relationships that it's that hectic. Maybe when I get into a relationship, I will be like, okay, you know what? I love this girl. I'm going to call her in the morning. I'm going to check on her at lunchtime. I'll check on her in the evening. I mean, I just feel like that is going to be a hassle. And the other thing I'm talking about in regards to the responsibility of being with someone is that when you are with someone, you're supposed to care about them. And it's not supposed to be something that is forced on you. It is something that comes out of wanting them, out of wanting to be with them, out of the love you share with them, something like that. So if you are not disposed to sharing that kind of love the way that person wants, if they are, I guess what I'm trying to say, if they are an attention person, of which me, I am definitely not an attention person, isn't that going to be a problem for me? And if this person is, let me say, the love of your life, how do you deal with that? Losing the one person that you're going to always think about, what, and wow, this is so hypothetical. But I mean, it was just this whole debate going on in my head whereby I'm like, so do you lose the person that you think you're going to spend the whole of your life with just because you are not disposed to that being your love language? I don't know. So now I'm thinking, should I try to change, or when I'm in the next relationship, should I try to accommodate them? But I also realized I would somehow be miserable, which would in the end lead back to the same thing of them being miserable because I am not being like genuine in the relationship. It's just this whole thing that I think I am overthinking, but I definitely do notice that, that emotional part is lacking in me. I don't know what brings that up. I don't know if it is that I've just been so long alone. But I mean, there are people who hit it, I should say, right on the first relationship. What do those people get right? And the funny thing is, I have read, there was a very good book written by Dr. I don't remember his name, but it's called Intimacy and Desire. That book was huge, yes, but it was so diverse on these whole topics of marriage and relationships and these whole dynamics that are really important when you're trying to build an intimate relationship with someone, that I was like, okay, wow. And so after reading all those books, reading all the novels I listened to, if anyone has listened to the Cheaters episode, you'll be entertained by this whole Kiera story that I told with Killen. And with everything that I'm consuming, the shows that we consume, it just gives this whole mixed picture about relationships that I definitely know other people are confused about how these things actually work. And in the African setting, we have this whole thing that the saying, so these are your aunties and everything, will try to guide the girl, and then the boy is guided by. But those things are all fading out. I mean, I rarely talk about these things with my dad, and I mean, I don't want to talk about them with my dad. But a very bad statement to say, but I almost don't feel like shy to talk about them, but it just feels weird talking about them. So should it be a discussion he initiates? Because I am definitely not going to initiate that kind of discussion. Or should this whole generation just be damned because we are not sharing enough with the people that are actually married? Because you see, when you actually look at your parents and you see the dysfunction, and I'm not talking about my parents. I'm not talking about my parents. I'm just saying in general. When we look at our parents, or when we look at the shows that we have, and you see the sort of dysfunction in families, you get this whole thing in your head that, wow, marriage is work. Regardless of the fact that you're getting all these other benefits, it comes at a cost. And yeah, I'm just debating that whole thing. I'm not saying I'm not going to get married or anything. I'm not that extremist, no. I'm definitely saying that I want to be the best version for the next person I am with, or the person I get married to. But does that mean I have to compromise on some things that are already intrinsically part of me, or do I have to, or am I just overthinking this? Anyway, you guys will just let me know. That is how to handle the responsibility of being with someone else. And those are the 4 things I wanted to talk about in this bonus episode. I have rambled a lot, but I hope you still enjoyed and listened to the end. If you have stuck around, please like, subscribe, and comment. Please share the podcast. Otherwise, without dragging this out anymore, bye-bye, and I'll see you in the next one.